Not well, you know, unless you use a flintlock, then you can.
Well, I just went for the open season, you know. Some of the commissioners were asking for longer seasons anyway when I was there proposing it. And it was right in line with what I was asking for.
I appreciate your educational side of it, though. Yeah.
That's what it's really about.
Yeah, I mean, if you make that the only weapon that they can use or firearm, then that's gonna make people wanna know how to use them more, you know?
Right.
So,
Well, even though that it's a primitive weapon, it could still be used in upload.
Yes,
Also, couldn't it?
yes,
But it's still loaded from the other.
yes. So during muzzleloader season, you use a flintlock and you wear hunter orange. I'm not butting that. I'm just asking for the no hunter orange in January and straight flintlock.
I don't know if you agree with this, Brennan, but I think you would still need to be required to wear orange on WMA.
Yeah, on WMA.
Now, private land, yeah, but just because of all the small game hunting that's going on during that time as well. That would be my only thought on that.
But let me ask you this. Pennsylvania requires 250 square inches. Tennessee's 500. What about reducing it down to 250?
I don't think I've ever measured an individual, but I don't know. That's above me there. Yeah.
So basically, they require a hat.
Require half of what we do. So like during small game, you see a lot of people wearing just the vest, not the full vest.
I'd probably rather have a longer season and be required for the hunter orange, to answer your question about that.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, Fred, good luck with that, buddy.
All right.
Some new business. So we've got a couple of fellows from the Tennessee Wildlife Federation in our group today. They would like to give us a little discussion presentation. Bill Cooksey and Horace Tipton. Fellows, you want to address the board?
Sure.
Tell us who you are and what you do, and Horace, tell us.
Yeah, trying to stand where everybody, I talk to everybody here too. My name's Horace Tipton, I'm the policy director for Tennessee Wildlife Federation. Kind of figured, considering we share a board member, most of y'all are familiar with us, but in case you're not, we are a statewide conservation organization focusing on wildlife and sportsman's issues around the state. We have, in addition to public policy, we have our educational programs and our habitat on-the-ground conservation programs, but of course my program is public policy. What that means is we work at everywhere from the commission to the federal government, advocating for sound conservation policies, ensuring that we have access to hunting and fishing, that we have good policies in place for habitat management, and that overall that we have the best wildlife that we can in the state. Primarily, we work at the state legislature. That's where I spend a lot of my time. It's kind of a dirty word for some folks, but really I'm a lobbyist. I tell people I get to lobby for hunting and fishing. We also work at the commission level, which is one thing we talked about a lot in here. I know one of the things I like to do when I kind of open up this talk is talk about why public policy matters. I don't think I really need to talk about that in this group, given the conversation we just had. The reason public policy matters is because the things we like to do are impacted by season setting, or impacted by a well-funded agency. We've got to make sure that these guys are able to go out there and do their jobs. WMA management, it's important stuff, right? For conservation, for sportsmen, for people who enjoy the outdoors is particularly important. One thing I do want to note on, one thing that's important within that whole public policy structure is how the commission is structured and how season setting works in Tennessee at least. And it's the commission sets those seasons. And the reasoning behind that is you have the commission made up of sportsmen. The statute actually requires that the commission members that are appointed by the governor and speakers be active participants in hunting, fishing, or boating. In fact, those guys and gals know what they're doing, understand our issues, understand the outdoors, understand wildlife management, and understand the impact of on wildlife of season setting and on the impact on sportsmen of season setting. It's a really important aspect of that, and that is something that is really important. It's a core part of what we do at the Federation, is safeguard that, that commission structure. Another thing kind of typically gives a legislative update. Sounds like Terry's stolen some of my thunder in a past meeting, maybe, and talked about some of the legislation in the past. Couple very important things, one really important thing to note that happened this last session, because there's information getting out there about the baiting bill that passed. If somebody tells you that they can bait this year on their property, that you can hunt over bait, you cannot. The statute requires that TWRA, that the commission, set a rule first and create a bait privilege license. These guys will probably tell you that there is no bait privilege license yet, and do not do that this year. It'll be probably effective in 2026, but kind of like with the funding issue, we'll talk about a little more in a second. There's a lot of I don't know there right now. A lot of stuff, questions that are going to be up for the commission, stuff that they're talking about in Nashville, TWRA a lot. But that is, of course, an important one out there. A lot of information out there on it. The main thing to know, if anybody says they know what they're doing on baiting, they probably don't. The other one I want to note on is use of drones for deer recovery. Similarly, that will require the commission to set a rule. That one may happen a little bit sooner. We don't really know yet. With season setting, like I say, we work at the legislature, we also work at the commission. We were at the last season setting meeting, which, we talked about flintlock cartridges. One thing we advocated for was a straight wall cartridge season. We would like to see cartridge a few more deer where you need to. We also advocate for turkey season being pushed back a week earlier. I know that's something that, at least on my turkeys, pushing it about a week earlier would make a tremendous amount of impact on my success. And there's been science that's been debated about that, on how much that would impact the population. We would argue that the moving it back a week earlier wouldn't impact population substantially. But we were not successful in either one of those. We intend to continue pushing those next year. Those are still issues that are live for us. We look forward to working with all y'all during season setting. If y'all have input on it, we're going to hand out contact information after this. Bill will talk a little bit more about how we're working on engaging the Federation too. Kind of the elephant in the room are those license fees right now, right? I know some of y'all in this room worked with TWRA a lot on getting some of that worked out, particularly around OH fees. The big thing about license fees being withdrawn by TWRA earlier this month is that leaves a $15 million hole in TWRA's budget. It's an issue, obviously. Again, we talk about WMA management, law enforcement, habitat management, things that we rely on, kind of the core things that are important to us, anybody that enjoys the outdoors. We've got an agency that we rely on that obviously y'all have a good relationship with. We need them to be well funded. One positive note out of it is that when that license fee rule was being withdrawn, legislators did commit on the record to help the agency figure this out. Again, don't know exactly what that is yet, but some of the ideas that have been batted around are looking at states like Missouri. Some of y'all may be familiar with the sales tax on they get 1/8 of 1% that goes to conservation. A large portion of that goes to their agency to supplement license fees. Y'all, I think this room knows that the agency is primarily funded through our license fees right now, right? Which is why they have been so high and why they were set to increase, is because the agency needed that money, because it's the only source of funding they have in the state. Missouri supplements that with a percentage of sales taxing. So Arkansas does something similar. Those aren't anything set in stone at all, right? That is not something we're actively advocating for at this point. It's something that the agency is working on, the commission is working on. There are a lot of conversations going on about that. But the big thing to know is that there is real legislative support for conservation right now. To push that over the finish line, sportsmen are going to have to engage on that. You're going to have to support that. Groups like this all around the state are going to have to tell the legislators that they support conservation, that they want better funding for conservation, that we need some sort of solid funding source for the agency so that we can solve this problem, not kick the can down the road. My colleague Bill Cooksey is here, and he is our partnership program lead. And I want him to talk a little bit about about what we're doing with our grassroots engagement, some of our outdoor business outreach, how y'all can get involved.
I'm gonna get my back to the wall too. I get a little nervous when people are behind me. Yeah, I'm Bill Cooksey, Partnerships Program Leader for Tennessee Wildlife Federation, and I appreciate y'all letting us be here today. Horace didn't mention, aside from sales tax, I've learned that now some states are doing some money comes out of their lottery and goes to their agency, and Montana's even looking at taxing weed, so.
That's probably not gonna happen in Tennessee. It's-
No, probably not, but there are a lot of different things that potentially could happen. But I'm gonna start talking about Fred and I, because we both lost in Nashville this year when we were asking for those season changes. You know, me on behalf of TWF for the earlier turkey season, which, you know, the latest studies are showing is viable scientifically. And then the straight wall cartridge actually comes from our board of directors voted to ask us to push for that in 2018. So that's something we're doing on behalf of our board. And as Horace said, in West Tennessee especially, we could use a few more deer killed, and those rifles are much easier for women and kids to handle, and folks with disabilities. But I was pushing for that. Fred was there pushing for his flintlock season, and I'm with him. I'm going to push for that, and he's going to push with me, right, with the commission. So, but we push with the commission on those seasons rather than legislators, and typically me personally and us as an organization, we want science guiding wildlife management, and that's usually best done in the commission structure. But what we do is ask people to come with us to speak at commission meetings. So, you know, Fred was there and had some folks with him. We had some people come and speak, you know, on the turkey seasons at Straight Wall. And I would love it if at some of our meetings in the future, some commission meetings, we could get more representation from this part of the state, because that's something we desperately need in Tennessee. Our state is so diverse from east to west. And I mean, if you've deer hunted or turkey hunted on the western end of the state, you know how different it is. I don't climb hills. I mean, the only climbing I do is up into a stand when I go deer hunting. Our hunting's different. People tend to be different and hunt differently. So, and fishing's the same way. So the more representation we get at these meetings from other places, the better. And that goes for Nashville as well, up at the State House. Horace, personally goes up there and visits. We write letters, we make calls. We ask friends around the state to make calls to your congressman when there's an issue that we need to push on. And we even, in January every year, we'll have a Sportsman's Day on the Hill. And I'd love it if some of y'all are interested to come down and represent your part of the state, because there's going to be some stuff on the Hill this year, such as potentially the license issue, that we're going to need sportsmen's help to get things across the finish line to help our state moving forward. So I'm here. I'd love to give you a card, get your name, and if anyone's interested or you know people in the area who are, let me know. Thank y'all.
Let me point out that a couple of things in Tennessee Wildlife Federation's successes in the past. You know, the right to hunt fish was primarily a Tennessee Wildlife Federation issue. And we were able to get that together. We was able to get that bill passed so that you have a right to hunt fish. It's not just some privilege that some congressperson gave you. You have a right. Trey, go ahead.
All right. I had Tory Grimes send me the law. So I got it right here. I'm going to read it from State Tennessee. Every person hunting big game except turkey during the gun hunts proclaimed by the commission shall wear on both the upper portion of the body and head outer garments of daylight fluorescent orange or daylight fluorescent pink color of not less than the combined 500 square inches and visible from the front and back. State law.
Private land's in there somewhere. It may not
It
be in
says
that.
every person.
It's there.
It doesn't say private land or,
I'm not arguing, it's there. It's there. Yeah.
it's state law.
Right.
Well, thank you for that, Fred. So, back to Wildlife Federation. I've been a board member for 22 years. I think I'm the oldest one, longest running board member.
I think you are.
Nevertheless, if you really want to see something, if you want to belong to an organization that gets things done across the state, not just here or there or somewhere else. I mean, there's a lot of rod and gun clubs here and there that have come and gone. The Wildlife Federation is actually the mother and the father of the Wildlife Agency, TWRA. They're the mother and the father of that. So they have a lot of clout, and they work hand in hand with the agency on important legislation that affects all of us users, whether we, are hook and bullet people or we're bird watchers, or no matter what we do, or if we have a special interest. The Wildlife Federation is there to advocate for you. And you can't do anything by yourself, as Fred will attest. But if you stack that room in the commission with 100 people, you have a voice.
Absolutely.
You have a voice.
Yes, sir.
Can I add something to that, Terry?
Go ahead,
About
sir.
how we're founded? Terry's right. Our predecessors helped found the agency, helped push the original bills, found that. Before that, though, the Conservation League was founded by groups like this from all around the state. It was rod and gun clubs from all around the state. We were originally sort of a conglomeration of all of those groups. One thing that Bill's trying to do is we're trying to get back to that somewhat, bring all those groups back into the fold, add a voice to all those groups in Nashville. Because, just like we can't be here and know the issues that y'all have the way y'all hunt, we recognize not everybody has the time to spend 4 months in Nashville and be at the legislative session all the time. We want to be there to keep y'all in the loop on what's going on. And if y'all have, a question about what's going on up there, we always want, we're always here for questions too.
The Wildlife Federation gives you individuals an opportunity to have a voice through people like Horace, who goes down there to the legislature and walks around the halls and talks to all those congressmen and representatives about what you're interested in. So I'm just pointing out to you that if you want to have any impact at all, you've got to get behind an organization that has the speaker, the mouthpiece, and that's the Wildlife Federation. And Horace is our advocate down in the halls in Nashville. And Bill he's going to try to put together the coalitions that we used to have. And my predecessor before me in this chair was Lee Asbury, and he was a member at large, board member, and for probably, 15, 20 years. And I've been there about 22, so just wanted to point that out, and who the Federation really is, and what they do. Any questions for the fellows while they're here? Any questions? In our audience, anybody in the audience got any questions or any comments you'd like to make?
What is the date on that Sportsman on the Hill? What?
So, scheduling these in the legislature can be kind of challenging. This last year, we had it in February. We got snowed out. We're actually probably looking at March this year just to kind of avoid that. We're not going to have it scheduled until this fall. It's just the way the legislature schedules things. But if you give Bill's contact information, give him yours, we can keep you in the loop on that for sure.
Anyone else? And ask about the permits or the licensing or anything like that. Now's the time to do it. Yes, sir.
So as far as I'm a OHV, used to hunt in the past years. I physically moved here 14 years ago because of the mountains, the riding. My family's from Sunbright, but we have literally noticed a tremendous lack of attendance up in the mountains just within the last few months, just when all this has just popped up. Literally, we were out yesterday, 42 miles, and we saw 6 machines up in the mountains. So getting to the license, I've got a mixed emotion about this, because I literally can ride from my home to the trail system, and one way, personally, I sort of would like the increase because I could consider this as my private riding area. There won't be nobody there, you know? I don't know what else to say. We're already seeing it, and the businesses, you know, they're seeing it. I mean, if you look through Campbell County, all the businesses that's being sold are up for sale, especially up in the Stinking Creek, you know, area. Businesses are hurting, but, you know, like I said, get back to, I could see it as my own private riding area. It would be maintained, there wouldn't, you know, there wouldn't be nobody on the trails. But then, on the other hand, I'm looking at the Campbell County in general. So the prices are just going to run everybody off. They already have. I mean, am I right? I mean, what's your opinion?
There's definitely been a decrease. There was a decrease that started pretty significantly in the second half of 2024. There's been a decrease this year. I mean, we're doing okay. But I was just talking to Terry and Bill about it before the meeting started, that it's hard to gauge a little bit right now. I mean, the numbers that I'm looking at it's been a little bit of a roller coaster this year. Some metrics are good, some are not good. One thing I didn't talk to you guys about is what you just mentioned, though, is that when you go out on the trails on the weekend right now, there are definitely not as many people on the trails as there were 2-3 years ago, in my opinion.
A lot of that started with the alcohol ban.
Yes, there was a big drop in participation on the trails after the alcohol ban, and it's, you know, now I can't speak to every, I'm just one campground, I can't speak to every OHV business or campground around, but I mean, like I said, we're kind of a mixed bag right now. Some of our metrics are good, some of them are down. But, I mean, the participation on the trails is definitely down from what it was before. I don't think anybody would argue that.
Yeah. Back in the
I
back.
got a question. I understand, you know, you don't want people out here drunk on the trails, but how can it be right for you to be on the lake in a boat and have alcohol in a boat and be able to drive across the lake? And you can have alcohol in your car. In the state of Tennessee, and there is no open container law, you can go down the interstate drinking a beer as long as you are not driving. But you cannot have a beer in your side by side going across the property.
Well, let's ask John. You want to answer that, John or Joe? Can you help us with that?
I don't know the state laws or apply on the lakes. On ours, it's public safety.
It ain't public safety